Hey everybody, I just wanted to give you a quick tutorial here of how I do my thumbnail sketches. Um, Thumbnails are basically just quick little drawings of ideas, visual brainstorming, I guess, for painting. I usually do this in my traditional sketchbook. I'll fill up a page with a bunch of little tiny rectangles to give myself a format to work in, and it helps me get my thoughts together. So here on this first one, I'm just doodling, throwing in some perspective lines. Don't really have much of an idea of what it's going to be. I just was trying to work with something in perspective with a low horizon line. Always makes things look very monumental if you're looking up at them. So you can see here on the left I'm putting in a bridge. And this is sped up 3 times just to keep the video size, the length really short. So I'm basically just throwing in lines and quick value. Started to make some sort of castle here. I like the idea of the drawbridge entrance. I was going to do like a weird kind of corner where that entrance is, but I was afraid it would just look like an incorrect attempt at perspective. So because it's just a sketch, I know the perspective is a little off, a little weird and drastic, but it's enough to give me an idea. Some mountain ranges. Every now and then, like you'll see here, I'll leave myself little notes. Like it's important to me that I have rain in that one, just because I wanted to try rain. Typically, thumbnail sketches would be the same. Would be variations of the same idea. But here again, I really didn't have any idea of what I wanted to paint. So I'm just just letting my brain take over, I guess, and just put some things in there. This is like a hangar of a space station. I thought would be cool. This huge window showing Earth and just people meandering about. Again, just trying to work on perspective, show a sense of depth and scale and proportion. I don't really want to get bogged down at this point with designing these spaceships or designing the castle per se. Again, just at the thumbnail stage, I'll figure out if I want to go with this, if I pursue it, then I'll deal with that later. I like doing these thumbnails like this because it's a really good way to kind of work really small, zoomed out, and it's really easy just to use a really large brush relative to the canvas and just throw in some basic values. You'll see there I make a note, castle and space station. Sometimes I'll do that, sometimes I don't. I mean, this page already looks shockingly similar to my regular traditional sketchbook. This third attempt, I thought about like almost like a hole, like a ditch, and we're looking down. And I wanted this to be some kind of like landing port or something, but I wasn't real happy with it. It just started to look like an eyeball, and as a thumbnail sketch, I really wouldn't put enough detail in it to differentiate that. So I abandoned this really fast. I just started making lines and seeing if I could see anything, and you'll see it's because it's a thumbnail. I just got out of there quickly and moved on to the next one, and just refreshed, rebooted. Here I'm working on some like tent city and flags with deserts, and again I'm trying to keep everything really large. And I'm putting in just indications of people really small. I've done that in all 3 of my thumbnails so far, and it's just helps me get a sense of proportion. Some of the things I do here aren't really atypical in nature, but they would be atypical if they were this large or this elevated. So I like to do that a lot in my work. And again, I'm not really going to get bogged down on the design of these tent cities. Just enough to kind of create some movement. Um, keep the image, the format and composition dynamic, but just really fast. Just getting these ideas down is the most important part. And my goal here was to just crank out 10 thumbnails so I can, at least if out of 10, if I get 2 that I'm happy with, um, then maybe I'll continue that. This thumbnail here is it's actually one I've done before. It's actually in my traditional sketchbook, but I started drawing it again. And this image is kind of for me, it's reminiscent of the original Tron, where he's got this big computerized desk and real crazy window behind him and everything. And I was just getting ideas of Blade Runner, like cityscape and nighttime scene, and the CEO sitting at a very ornate, elaborate desk with a dark room and spotlights on him. So this image here is pretty dark, but because it's my second time kind of drawing that idea, it's definitely something I'll do at some point. I don't have a particular craziness about it, but I just like the idea of that lighting scheme. And here I'm just throwing in some white just to give myself a better clue of what's happening. This next thumbnail, I really didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just wanted to create this movement into the frame, just to get the viewer involved. And I really, at this point, I just really started out with scribbles. No idea what this could be. This could be ice. This could be desert. This could be forest. It didn't matter to me at the time. So last year, for one of my classes I was teaching, we were doing vehicle design, and the students had to combine an old vehicle with a newer vehicle. So that's kind of what I did. I just kind of added in the idea of horses pulling this Rolls-Royce looking wagon, kind of a Mad Max theme. How do you recycle vehicles when they become obsolete, and power and gasoline and all that stuff is gone. Again, I'm labeling myself future office, old west, trying to mix ideas here. This one here is a little bit more along the lines of design. The perspective is pretty terrible, and typically I would start with a silhouette for something like this, but I just thought about doing some sort of aircraft lifting off, and how could I kind of incorporate that. So this is kind of a mix between a large Zeppelin slash jet propelled aircraft. I didn't really have the idea for it yet, as far as would this be police or military or just whatever. But again, at this stage it's just more about the composition and the idea, just keeping it quick. And you can see, when I start to have a little bit of brain freeze, I just throw something down on the page just to keep my pen moving, keep my hand moving. Here I thought it was important to add a second one just for a sense of depth and scale, but this one would be grounded, and then add some people around that just so we can get an idea of how big these things are. Again, going for that really retro look, but everything monumental. Really like the idea of just using lines and then just slapping in some values here. Here I thought it was important that these inhabitants had a home, so that's kind of a staircase up to another staircase, up to another staircase, up to some sort of temple or castle or headquarters or something. Again, I don't really know, just was messing with it. Was trying to get some clouds in there, but the white wasn't really being cooperative. Typically when I do thumbnails, as I go on, by the time I'm at the 10th one, I'm getting more detailed, more and more, and spending more and more time on each one. And that's a constant battle for me. I have to kind of remember its place, remember what it is, and just get in and get out. This idea here, again, I was just throwing in some basic perspective lines, but I wanted this idea of these really, really huge statues, all kind of creating this arch and this depth. I was thinking more like in terms of the Wizard of Oz here, and they're in this really tall hallway. I don't know who they is at this point. Again, it's just the idea that there's a sense of scale and a sense of depth. I wanted to give it like a classic airplane hangar type ceiling. I tried to invert it there. For some reason, my computer was just not cooperating here. That's not a big deal. So let's go in and add some value. I kind of wanted the idea that these statues were white. But again, it's not a big deal. I will do that sometimes though. I'll start with a black rectangle and just draw with white. Really helps create dramatic lighting. Some quick highlights here. And again, there's somebody back there. There's somebody coming towards us, but I don't know. It's not necessarily Dorothy, but it's somebody. This one I just wanted to incorporate water somehow. And I thought, well, if I just do a boat, that's not really exciting. But I thought maybe if I make the sails metal and again increase that scale and just make this a pretty big boat. Again, I didn't want to get bogged down in the design. Of course, there are bigger ships out there than this, so the scale doesn't really save it like it might save some of the other ones, but I thought maybe I can do something with those sails if I develop this into a painting and really focus just on the water texture and try to balance this composition out with like an island in the distance. Right now I'm just working on the value, trying to get that all situated and the idea there. For me, this is, thumbnails are for myself. Typically, no one even sees my thumbnails. And the level of detail is just dependent upon me. I just have to be able to remember it later. And I know it sounds kind of funny, but a lot of times I'll look at my own thumbnails and not remember what it was I was doing, so it really forces me to develop just a little bit more than I have in the past. Again, this is sped up 3 times, so this entire page took about 45 minutes. There was some indecision along the way. It's not as quick and easy as it might look sped up. Again, like this thumbnail here, I had no idea what I wanted to do, but I just liked the idea of the organic roots, and again, if I can make these trees really, really huge in comparison to the people, that would kind of give it an otherworldly feel. Now, if I was going to do this painting for real, I would definitely work on a perspective path and try to put them in perspective a little bit better. Here I just wanted a silhouette of someone to kind of give this depth, and this person's just looking through binoculars, so it kind of leads our eye into the work. Look at those little tiny people in there, kind of a pathway. On these, I always try to include like a pathway or something that leads the viewer into the painting, especially like this wide angle format. I like this widescreen look. I like to stick with a 16:9 or a 20:30, just to give it that movie and cinema look to it. And that, just throwing in some extra values here. You can see here I've created a mask, and I just wanted to mask off of that junk. It does take away my labels, but hopefully that helps you get an idea of doing thumbnails.